Hey guys, tonight we drift beyond the veil to a place where the stars haven't been born yet, where the winds of time do not blow, and where the sky is not blue or black or red. Because there is no sky at all. There is only the hush. It is not darkness. It is not light. It is the space before opposites were formed, the prelude to every breath that will ever be drawn. You float here now, weightless in the presence of that which has no name, before even the first echo of "Let there be." You probably won't survive this dimension of time, but that's the point, isn't it? So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Tell me your location and what time you're tuning in. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You feel it now, don't you? The space before beginnings, before Genesis penned its first syllable. This is where it all begins, or rather, where nothing yet knows how to begin. There is motion here, but it does not travel. There is sound, but it does not echo. You are inside what the ancients called the deep, the tehom, the unspoken realm that God hovered over. But even that hovering has not begun. This is the prelude of the prelude, and something waits here. Some say the very thought of rebellion was first whispered here, not with malice, but with stillness. Before the light shattered the canvas, before the great archangels were tasked and titled, before the ink of time dried on the scrolls of heaven, there was a question, not spoken, only felt, a question that moved nothing, but stirred everything. The thrones are not yet seated, the seraphim do not yet sing, but somewhere in the still field of all possibility, a watcher waits. You can almost see him, not formed, not flesh, not flame. Just a glimmer, a glint against the unformed sea, a thought that has not yet asked itself. Azazel, not fallen, not risen, just watching. His gaze rests on something we cannot see, because it is not yet allowed to be, but he sees it. A shape in the hollow, a rhythm, a beauty different from glory, not higher, just different. A design that whispers freedom. What does it mean to be free in a realm where nothing opposes anything? What does it mean to choose when no other path has ever been drawn? Azazel watches. He is not like Lucifer, who dreams in light. He is not like Michael, who stands in strength. He is not like Gabriel, who waits for instruction. Azazel is the watcher of questions. He guards the northern veil, the side of silence. He's not evil, he's not good, he is still. But something is approaching. You do not see it, you feel it. Like warmth pressing in on untouched snow. The faintest vibration that is not sound, not movement, but the invitation to both. Something is going to happen. Not yet, but soon. There are rumors, even here, that the Creator is writing. That a scroll is being unsealed somewhere in the depths of the ineffable. That light will be born, that something called man is destined to rise. But none of that matters now. Because before all that, something is breaking. A silent choice, a shift in the breath of heaven. You drift past it, gently, like a feather caught in a thought. You pass Azazel, not face to face, for he has no face yet. But your awareness brushes his. You feel what he feels. Curiosity, longing, melancholy for a future that hasn't happened yet. Some say Azazel questioned too early. Some say he saw too far. Some say he guarded the unborn until his gaze became hunger. But others believe he waited only to witness, not to wound. You float now toward the core, where light is starting to pulse. Tiny, radiant strands weaving themselves into the shape of a throne. Not one, but many. Thrones that await the seated ones. Beings who will wear names like Ophan, Cherub, Seraph, Archon. But not yet. Everything here is becoming. You look back. Azazel remains still. He has not moved since you arrived. But something in you wonders, was he always there? Or did he come into being because you looked? The silence begins to shimmer, and somewhere in the vastness above the unshaped, a voice, not heard, but known, begins to hum. The breath of beginnings has begun to stir. And Azazel? He doesn't blink. He never has. But if he did, he might close his eyes now and dream of the moment before time. The voice hums, not like music, but like breath filling a space that was once untouched. You drift closer now, past the watcher's stillness, deeper into the place where the first distinction is being born. Light and something else. You do not see it with your eyes. You feel it like warmth on one cheek, while the other remains cool. This is not war, not yet. It is not even division. It is the awareness that difference is coming. And in the heart of the unborn light, something forms. They are not called angels yet. They are not called anything. But they shimmer with such brilliance it hurts to notice them too long. They rise like thoughts from the divine, elegant, symmetrical, and whole. You see them arranged in a pattern, circles within circles, eyes upon eyes, wings that whisper more than they move. These are thrones, no names, no songs, no memory, just praise that sustains itself. The light that surrounds them is not like the sun. It is not even warm. It simply is. They face inward, always toward the center, where something vast and invisible pulses. There are no shadows here, not yet, because no one has ever turned away. Every being reflects the center. Every wing refracts only obedience. And the light is pleased with itself, a mirror, never interrupted. But even this perfection holds a question. You sense it like a quiet hesitation behind every hallelujah, a breath that holds a note that almost quivers. What happens when something turns? Some say that's impossible, that heaven was designed with no hinges, that all thrones were bolted into place by divine will. But others say free will was not introduced later. It was always there, hidden in the silence behind glory. Some say the light itself allowed it. You drift around the thrones now. They do not see you, or maybe they do, but they do not respond. Their focus is unwavering. They were made to reflect, not to ask, but one among them, high above the circles, pulses with unusual brilliance. He is unnamed here, but you feel it. Lucifer. He shines not because he was told to, but because he knows he is beautiful. His light curves with a grace that feels self-aware. There is no pride yet, but there is attention, focus. Lucifer does not look away from the center, but you wonder if he sees himself in its reflection. Some say the first flicker of shadow was not in rebellion, but in admiration of oneself. Lucifer's place is near the edge, yet higher than the others. And the closer you drift to him, the more you feel the tension. He has not turned. He has not asked. But somewhere in the deep rhythm of his radiance, the thrones around him begin to feel aware. Perhaps not of doubt, but of choice. The sea beneath the thrones is clear, crystalline. It reflects perfectly. And yet, as you pass above it now, you sense something beneath the surface. Not form, not matter, just potential, like a color the eye cannot see, a possibility. And beside that vast sea, at its edge where the light meets something that could one day be limit, the thrones that face no shadows begin to shimmer more tightly. They hold their praise in place because they feel it too. The center pulses again, and somewhere very, very far beneath that still sea, in a corner not yet named, you feel the gaze of Azazel again. He is not in the light, but he watches it. He does not rise, but he waits. Some say the thrones feared Azazel's silence more than Lucifer's light. For silence is more dangerous than disobedience. It asks nothing, and therefore receives everything. Now you hover in stillness above the sea of glass. The thrones continue their worship. Their wings never slow. But the atmosphere has changed, not corrupted, not fractured, just aware. What is a shadow if not a space where light is delayed? And in this moment, this eternal pre-Genesis pause, you sense it. One among the thrones may one day turn. And when that happens, shadows will be born. But for now, everything still sings, still praises, still shines, still believes it always will. You drift backward past the edge of the crystal, through rings of motionless fire and radiant song. The sky has no name and time does not count. But something holy is shifting, a whisper through the folds of paradise. A decision is forming, and beyond that decision, destiny breathes. But not yet. The thrones face inward. Their hallelujahs have not faltered, but their edges flicker, because they have felt the possibility of looking away. Hey guys, tonight we descend a little deeper into the hush between creation and conflict. You drift now into the thought of a being who has not yet broken the rules, but has begun to wonder if they exist. Lucifer. There is no fire yet, no fall, no name even, not in the way we would know it. He is a light, not a light of something, but light as something. A being composed entirely of radiance and rhythm, moving through the heavens without resistance. And yet, even in his brilliance, something lingers. He is beginning to see. Not just to reflect as the thrones do, but to see in the way one does when they realize they are being seen. He notices the symmetry of his wings, the perfect arch of his station, the echo of the center refracted through his own light. And with that noticing, a question. What if I am beautiful? Not in a defiant way, not even in a prideful way, just curious, a softness wrapped in the folds of heaven's order. You hover near him now. He does not move, but you can feel his thoughts forming like clouds around the edges of light. Thoughts not spoken aloud. Not yet. Lucifer has not turned, but in his mind, a shadow has begun to take shape, not as darkness, but as self. Some say this is the moment everything changed, not with words, not with rebellion, but with wonder. Because wonder leads to possibility, and possibility, left unchecked, becomes will. Above him, other angels sing. Their tones ripple like waves of light. They do not sense his shift, or perhaps they do and sing louder, as if their melody might drown out the silence between his thoughts. You drift closer. You feel what he feels. A gentle ache, not anger, not ambition. Something more ancient. A longing to be more than a mirror, to be something from himself rather than just of the one. He has seen the center. He has seen the perfection. But what if there is another shape? Some say the stars that would later fill the sky were first glimpsed in Lucifer's imagination, that their beauty is an echo of his longing, not born of rebellion, but of creativity unfulfilled. He does not speak to the thrones. He does not approach the crystal sea, but deep within his unspoken heart, he holds a secret image of a world unlike heaven, a place with shape and change and boundaries and bloom. A place where light meets resistance and finds meaning in the struggle. He dreams. That is his secret. He dreams. No other angel dares to. To dream is to risk imperfection. And in heaven, perfection is the law. But Lucifer dares. And somewhere beneath the veil of the north, Azazel watches still. He does not intervene. He does not warn. He simply observes. Perhaps he too dreams, not of rising, but of becoming. Some ancient mystics whispered that Lucifer was not the first to feel this ache, only the first to act on it. That before him, a silent order of watchers had long peered into the abyss of future possibility, and Azazel was one of them. You drift now between them, between the one who shines and the one who sees. Lucifer glows with tension. Azazel remains a stillness, untouched. They do not speak, but between them an invisible chord hums. A vibration of curiosity. The heavens do not notice, but the deep does. Far below the crystal sea, in the places where the firmament has not yet stretched, a hollow space begins to tremble. The kind of tremble that precedes birth. Some say this hollow was made to hold creation. Others say it was made to contain rebellion. But either way, it answers the hum between the dreamer and the watcher. A preparation, not of war, but of difference, of decision, of destiny. Lucifer turns only slightly, a tilt of thought, not of wing, enough to see himself through the echo of the center, enough to imagine what it would be like if the center reflected him instead. Not in defiance, in wonder. But heaven is not ready for wonder. Heaven requires worship, harmony, stillness. You feel the tension thicken, not with anger, with anticipation, the way a bowstring feels the moment before it sings, and still, nothing moves. The thrones remain, the sea stays still, the songs continue. But within the most radiant one, a vision unfolds, not of heaven, but of another. And somewhere, not far off, a voice begins to write, "In the beginning." You drift now toward a place unlike the others. It lies near the rim of the unseen, suspended between music and silence. A space not created, but gathered. Here the air thickens with holiness, but not the kind that sings, the kind that listens. This is the edge of the crystal sea, and on its surface, like moonlight stretched thin, a circle is forming, not of stone, not of fire, but of intent, a gathering of radiance, thrones, dominions, powers, the highest among the heavenly order. They take their places not by motion but by thought. Each one settles like a note in an ancient chord. This is the council. They do not meet often, or perhaps they always exist in this state, waiting to be noticed. You've arrived at the moment they become known, not in time, but in tension. At the center of the circle stands no throne, only stillness. This stillness is the question, not asked aloud, but known. A tension beneath the order, a vibration beneath the praise, a sense that something is being held back or birthed. Lucifer is among them now. He shines brighter than most, not by boast, but by nature. And the others? They acknowledge his radiance, not with envy, not yet, but with recognition. His presence shifts the balance, like a candle brought too close to the parchment of prophecy. You watch as the council listens, not to words, but to will. A will greater than their own, a presence they do not question. And yet, even that presence seems to wait. There is a scroll. It lies not on the sea nor in the air, but within the space between all gathered beings. It glows faintly, wrapped in symbols that predate language. Some say the scroll was always there, that it is the memory of creation, waiting to be recalled. Others whisper that the scroll is a mirror, and what you see in it depends on what you believe. No one touches it, not even the cherubim whose wings guard its edges, because this scroll speaks of something not yet accepted, a new thing, not of angels, not of light, not of stars or order, but of flesh, of clay, of humanity. And in its fibers lies a prophecy that humbles even the brightest of the heavenly host, that a creature formed of earth, not flame, will one day sit closer to the source than they. This is the seed of tension, not spoken, but felt. Some say the council was not called to decide, only to witness. Others say the choice was real, that even in heaven, will is sacred. Lucifer says nothing, but his gaze lingers too long, not on the scroll, but on the space it creates, the possibility it opens. What if he could be more? What if glory was not assigned, but earned? What if, you see it now? The others do too, not in anger, in awe, in fear, in ache. A rift has opened, not in space, but in thought. The council does not dissolve. It simply ends, as if the question was not answered, but absorbed. And somewhere, at the far edge of the sea, the watcher stirs. Azazel. He was not summoned, but he sees. He was not counted, but he understands. He lingers where light does not reach, not because he is fallen, but because he listens from the outside. Some say he was the first to grasp what the scroll meant, that humanity would not be a lesser echo of angels, but a sacred contradiction, fragile, mortal, yet destined for union with the eternal. You float above the council now, watching as the circle dissolves into light again. The radiance spreads out, but something has shifted. The songs continue, but their harmony carries an undertone, possibility, dissonance, a beauty too strange to be safe. Lucifer does not return to his place. He lingers, looking not at the center anymore, but at the edges, where boundaries blur and names are formed. And in the stillness behind him, Azazel waits. Some say the council's silence was consent. Others say it was the first great mistake. But all agree the scroll was seen, and once seen, it cannot be unseen. You drift away from the circle now, through quiet corridors of radiant geometry, where light folds like silk and thoughts form like dew. But behind you, the sea does not ripple, the scroll does not fade, and the watcher still watches. Beyond the dissolved council, far above the still waters of the crystal sea, the heavens stretch wide in silence. You drift through the airless corridors of celestial architecture, spaces not built but breathed, carved in pure thought, lit from within. And there, standing as if they have always stood, are two of heaven's most luminous beings, Gabriel and Michael, not yet messengers, not yet warriors. Their titles have not been assigned, or perhaps they've always worn them, quietly, like cloaks not yet fastened. Gabriel is the quieter of the two tonight. He stands near the edge of the harmonic plane, wings folded, gaze fixed not on the center, but inward. You sense something in him, not doubt, but restraint. His silence is not absence, but presence unspoken, the kind that listens more than it speaks. Some say Gabriel is the first to feel the divide, before even Lucifer breathes it fully into being. Others whisper that he was tasked with delivering messages not yet written, and waits for a scroll that knows his voice before his voice knows it. Michael is different. He does not doubt, and he does not wonder. He burns, not with pride, but with clarity. His presence is like a line drawn in still air, clean, defined, uncompromising. But tonight, even Michael feels it, a slight tremor at the edge of obedience. Lucifer has not returned to his appointed place. He lingers still, far above the thrones, where the light deepens into silence. And the two archangels, brothers in breath, forged from the same divine utterance, stand apart in their knowing. They do not speak. They do not need to. You drift between them, weightless as dust caught in a sunbeam, sensing the gravity they carry. Gabriel holds stillness. Michael holds readiness. And somewhere, both know something is shifting that cannot be undone. Some say this was the last moment of peace in heaven, not because war erupted next, but because peace requires symmetry, and symmetry is fracturing. Gabriel's eyes turn, not outward, but toward a sound only he can hear, the sound of a future message, carried in reverse through time. It is not yet his to speak, but it will be. It always was. And Michael? He raises his hand, not in violence, in reverence, as if saluting what he does not understand, but will defend regardless. He does not yet know who he will fight, but he already knows why. Lucifer shines above them still. His light has grown heavier, not darker, but dense, more beautiful, if such a thing were possible, more specific, as though his radiance now bends inward, reflecting something no longer sourced from the center. And far below, Azazel stirs. He is not among them, not counted in the ranks of dominions or messengers, but he watches, and in his watching, he feels it. Lucifer has found a new axis. His light does not turn away from the divine, but it no longer depends upon it. Some say this was the first blasphemy, not a word, not a rebellion, but a radiance that sourced itself, a self-contained light. Gabriel closes his eyes. Michael steps forward, neither speak, because what's happening is too holy for words and too dangerous for silence. Lucifer descends now, slowly, as if pulled not by gravity, but by inevitability. He approaches Gabriel and Michael, not with hostility, with serenity. And that is the strangest thing. There is no fury in him, only vision. A vision he does not share, because it cannot be shared, only seen. Some say this was the moment heaven held its breath, not because of what was said, but because of what was not. You float gently as the scene begins to dissolve. The three do not move. The sky does not change. The song does not falter. But deep within the folds of silence, something begins to split. A line, a name, a wound that has not yet bled, but already aches. And Azazel? He closes his eyes, not in sadness, not in fear, but as if memorizing the shape of light before it breaks. You wake to the quiet hiss of incense. A thin ribbon of smoke rises from a burner near your doorway, coiling lazily upward before vanishing into the warm morning air. Outside, a priest is singing, low, rhythmic, and steady. You can't understand the words, but the sound feels like the Nile flowing in reverse. It takes you a moment to remember where you are or when. Still lying on your mat, your neck resting in the gentle arc of your now familiar headrest, you begin to realize something odd. You're inside a temple. Not as a worshipper, not as a tourist. You're simply here. This chamber isn't grand. It's a small annex of a larger hall, likely used only by the initiated. Light filters in through narrow slats high in the walls, carving golden lines across painted pillars. Incense thickens the air. Myrrh, maybe, or kaifi, that legendary Egyptian mixture said to purify the body and invite good dreams. And beside your mat is a small statue, of Bess. You blink at him. He blinks back, sort of. His wide lion face grins with mischief. His tongue sticks out like a kid making fun of a schoolteacher, and he holds a curved dagger in one stubby hand. His other hand is placed on his round belly, which is oddly comforting. This is the god of households, childbirth, and, strangely enough, sleep. Bess was no towering deity with temples of his own. He didn't command sunrises or oversee national grain supply. But if you were trying to sleep without nightmares, Bess was your guy. A lion-faced, dwarf-shaped, demon-fighting sleep bodyguard. You almost want to thank him for the nap. Across the room, you spot a priest placing headrests beside sleeping mats. They're painted with protective symbols, each arranged with precision and care. You realize now that this is not just a nap room, it's a ritual sleep chamber. The Egyptians believed that within sacred spaces like these, certain individuals, priests, prophets, or desperate pilgrims could receive visions from the gods. Not casual dreams, but deliberate ones. The term for it is dream incubation. Imagine falling asleep not just hoping to rest, but fully expecting that a deity might appear to you, instruct you, heal you, warn you. You lie back again, letting the cool stone find its place beneath your neck. The headrest raises your head just enough that your line of sight finds the painted ceiling above. Stars, eyes, solar boats. You hear footsteps behind you. A priest passes slowly, murmuring a chant. In his hand is a charm, a hippo-headed figurine, unmistakably Taweret, another sleep protector. She was often placed near beds of pregnant women or children, but in truth, her power extended far beyond that. Where Bess scared the bad dreams away, Taweret made sure they never dared show up in the first place. There is a calm here unlike anywhere else. You hear soft breathing. Others in the room are already asleep, their souls adrift in that vast inner landscape. You wonder what they'll bring back, what advice a god might offer, whether it will make sense in the morning. Historians still argue whether these temple sleep sessions were symbolic rituals or actual therapeutic practices. Some believe they were mostly for show, elaborate performances of piety. Others argue that dream healing was central to the temple experience, that these rooms weren't side chambers, but sanctuaries of sleep as sacred medicine. You feel it now, the urge to drift, to close your eyes and test whether the gods are feeling chatty tonight. But before sleep comes, you catch sight of a priest anointing a headrest with oil. He murmurs a blessing over it, and it strikes you how similar this is to preparing an offering. The headrest isn't just a tool here, it's a collaborator, a ritual object. It holds your head, yes, but it also holds space for the divine. The priest catches you watching. He smiles faintly and presses a finger to his lips, not scolding but inviting silence. You comply, sinking back. The headrest presses into your neck, not harshly, just firmly enough to remind you where you are. In a temple, on the edge of the dream world, balanced between worlds with only this arc of stone to hold your thoughts in place. The sounds of the chamber fade, the footsteps, the breathing, the soft crackle of a lamp. And into that silence, something seeps, a feeling, not a voice, a sense of vastness, of presence, the distinct sensation that you are not alone and never were. Perhaps that's what sleep meant here. Not escape, but nudge encounter. You don't know how long you lie there. It could be minutes, it could be hours. But when you finally open your eyes, the chamber feels brighter, lighter. Someone has opened the shutters just enough to let in the Nile's morning scent. You rise slowly, and Bess is still watching, tongue out, dagger ready. Like a doorman at a dream club you were lucky enough to get into. You nod your thanks. No one else speaks. This is sacred ground. And even after waking, the dream lingers like the scent of jasmine on your sleeves. You step out into the bright temple courtyard, unsure whether anything actually happened. But you do feel different. And maybe, just maybe, that's the point. You return home with incense still clinging to your skin and a strange, deep calm nested somewhere behind your ribs. You didn't see any gods last night, no divine pronouncements or prophetic visions, just a sense of being held, lightly but deliberately, between worlds. Like a scroll balanced on a reed, unrolling itself slowly. You walk slowly through the morning haze, sandals scuffing against the dusty path. Around you, the city is waking up, and it's here, in the bustle of daily life, that something unromantic hits you right in the nose. Bugs. You hadn't noticed them in the temple, bless Bess for that, but here, in the open-air market where fish scales sparkle in baskets and goats yell at invisible enemies, the insects are very much awake. Mosquitoes buzz, flies dive-bomb your ears, ants march like tiny soldiers, and somewhere near the spice stall, something scuttles that you're not brave enough to identify. You start thinking hard about that headrest again, not as a divine portal, not as a neck-aligning marvel, but as a very practical form of pest control. See, while modern sleepers are spoiled by mosquito nets, bug sprays, and air conditioning, the average ancient Egyptian had to make do with clever design. The headrest, elevated and open beneath, allowed airflow to pass freely under your neck, which not only cooled your body, but discouraged unwelcome nighttime visitors. Imagine sleeping flat on a mat, your face level with the floor, insects climbing over your cheek like it's a sand dune. Now imagine lifting your head just slightly with a block of carved stone, your neck raised, your scalp exposed to the breeze, and your ear well out of reach of six-legged midnight explorers. It wasn't just about spinal alignment or symbolic elevation. It was also about keeping your head above the swarm. A local woman confirms it for you later as you rest in her courtyard, sipping a clay cup of date wine. "We use lavender oil," she says, pointing to a smudge behind her ear. "But the headrest helps too. Scorpions don't like heights." She laughs like she's half joking. You're not sure she is. Historians still argue whether pest avoidance was a primary function or a convenient side effect of the headrest's design. But given the swarms you've dodged this morning, you're inclined to believe it was part of the plan. You begin to notice other little tricks in the environment. Reed mats hanging in doorways to block flies, pots of crushed herbs burning, smoke trails to repel gnats. But only the headrest provides protection while your eyes are closed, when your guard is down, when your soul's on a dream-fueled walkabout. Later, during an afternoon rest in the shade of a fig tree, you drift off again, stone under your neck, wind in your ears, flies mostly discouraged. It's not total comfort, but there's a sort of peace in the stillness, a relief in not being swarmed, bitten, or crawled upon. And of course, just as you slip into a nap, a lizard runs across your foot. Classic Egypt. Back home, you take a closer look at the bottom of your headrest. You hadn't paid much attention before, but now you notice it's slightly flared, wider than the top. Stability, yes, but maybe also to elevate it just enough so nothing wriggles over during the night. You imagine an Egyptian child asking his parent why they can't have a soft pillow. "So bugs don't whisper secrets in your ears," the parent might say. You chuckle, but also you believe it. You drift into thought. What else did the Egyptians do to protect their bodies during sleep? You recall reading about kohl eyeliner, not just used for beauty or sun protection, but also believed to ward off the evil eye. Bedtime wasn't casual here. People were prepared to sleep like they were preparing for a journey or a battle. Oil the body, bless the headrest, invoke the gods, elevate the skull. Even the very act of turning in for the night was part of a larger spiritual hygiene routine, one that assumed the night would come with risks, not just physical, but metaphysical too. And so, the stone pillow becomes part of a complete defense system. Your head elevated not just against ants and heat, but also against curses, whispering demons, stray spirits, and possibly even snooping neighbors with gossip potent enough to manifest in dreams. You lie back one more time as evening comes, the sun bleeding into the sky like crushed hibiscus, the wind rising just enough to brush through the door slats. You curl onto your mat, adjust your linen sheet, and settle your neck into the crescent again. Tonight, it's not about divine dreams or cosmic visions. Tonight, you're just grateful to be above the bugs. And as you drift off, you wonder, has modern sleep ever felt this secure? It's late afternoon now, and the Nile hums in the distance like a sleepy drum. You've spent enough time observing the world of pillows that aren't pillows. So today, you do something bolder. You visit a scroll reader. His house is shaded by a grove of date palms and smells faintly of ink and dust. Two ingredients you suspect that power most of ancient Egypt. He's old, wispy bearded. His fingers are stained with black pigment. He doesn't look up at first as you step into the entryway. Just continues writing, slowly, precisely, on a strip of rolled papyrus stretched taut between two stones. Looking for a story? He asks eventually, eyes still on the page. Sort of, you say. I'm looking for sleep. He finally looks up at that, smiles, just slightly. Aren't we all? You sit on a woven reed mat as he rises, slowly, creaking like an old wooden door, and rummages through a scroll rack in the corner. After a moment, he returns with a roll tied in blue thread. This, he says, is from a physician in Heliopolis. Herbal recipes, rituals, sleep incantations, and some nonsense probably. You raise an eyebrow. Nonsense? He shrugs. Even the gods dream strangely. He unties the thread and reads aloud in a whispery voice. The room seems to lean closer to listen. One recipe lists crushed blue lotus petals, mixed with wine and honey. Sip before bed for visions of clarity and calm. Another suggests heating frankincense resin with crushed juniper and waving it under the bed to dispel restless spirits. Yet another, perhaps your favorite, claims that placing dried mint leaves under the headrest will ensure dreams unspoiled by noise or frogs. You can't help but grin, because yes, frogs are specifically mentioned. Historians still argue whether these ancient remedies were truly pharmacological, placebo-driven, or simply ritualistic comfort. But clearly, the Egyptians took them seriously enough to write them down. The scroll reader continues flipping pages. Here's a chant to recite if you fear being followed in dreams. Here's a spell for banishing the memory of a bad dream before breakfast. And here's a passage dedicated entirely to how to forget someone you dreamed about too fondly. You blink. That last one seems emotionally advanced. The scroll reader chuckles. Love and dreams, two things that rarely behave. You sit for a while longer, reading through scrolls filled with herbal ingredients you've never heard of, and bedtime's routines more complicated than most weddings. There are baths in milk, prayers to the moon, even diagrams of how to position the body on the mat for maximum spiritual alignment. Left side for protection, right side for dreams, stomach only if you're absolutely certain you want to see ghosts. But you notice something in common across them all. The headrest is always present. Sometimes it's just a footnote. Place head upon the wearers and chant 3 times. Other times it's center stage, carve your name beneath the head and speak it before sleep. And occasionally it's poetic. As the head is lifted, so too may the heart be light. You ask the old man if he's ever carved one himself. He shakes his head. I prefer papyrus, less likely to chip. But he admits he owns one, a simple wooden ark passed down from his mother, who used it until the day her dreams stopped coming. He pauses then, gazing out the window. Funny thing about dreams, you never know when they'll leave or when they'll come back. Outside, the day begins to soften into that slow, honey-colored stretch that Egypt seems to have perfected. You thank the scroll reader and he waves you off with a warning not to sleep with your legs crossed. It tangles the soul's path, apparently. Back home, you prepare for evening, not with a mug of chamomile tea or a podcast, but with a pinch of dried herbs tucked under your headrest and a whisper too. Bess, just in case. You lie down slowly, the stone cool beneath your neck. The scent of crushed mint rises faintly, enough to tickle your nose. The wind shifts through the shutters, humming low and steady. You think of all the advice in the scrolls, how to breathe, how to chant, how to forget, how to remember. And yet here you are, still hoping for what everyone wants, a night of peace, maybe a dream that doesn't bite. You close your eyes, and somewhere in the half-light, between sleep and waking, you hear a whisper. Not a voice, just a line of poetry etched into the arc of stone. Rest now, the stars are watching. The morning brings a breeze that smells faintly of roasted barley and sun-warmed linen. It slips through the shutters and nudges you awake, like a cat pawing at your thoughts. You stretch slowly, neck rolling off the curve of the headrest, with a quiet clack that reminds you, yep, still made of stone. But this time, there's no temple, no dream scroll, no incense curling in the air, just the simple sounds of the street and the muffled chatter of your neighbors. You rise, wrap your linen tunic loosely over your shoulder, and step into the alley, where something new waits for you. Today, you've been invited to visit the home of a local scribe, not a royal, not a priest, just a working man, the kind who spends his days bent over scrolls, scratching out records of grain rations, marriage contracts, or someone's very dramatic chicken theft. His name is Hetep, and he greets you at the doorway with ink on his hands and a reed pen still tucked behind his ear. "You hear about headrests?" he says, squinting. "Mine's lopsided. I like it that way." You blink. "That doesn't hurt your neck?" He shrugs. "Depends which side of the bed the gods are on." He leads you inside. His home is modest, 2 rooms, a mat rolled up in the corner, and shelves stacked with scrolls bound in dyed thread. A cat lounges on a pile of rushes and eyes you with suspicion. He shows you his headrest, a small wooden one, cracked at one edge, but clearly well loved. Unlike the elaborate carvings you've seen elsewhere, this one is plain. No scarabs, no prayers, just smooth wood shaped to hold a tired neck after too many receipts. "You make your own?" you ask. He laughs. No, my brother carved it. I just kept it. Even when I got promoted, even when the cat knocked it over for the 3rd time." You sit together in the quiet, sipping watered beer, and Hetep starts talking. Turns out, even ordinary Egyptians had headrests. Not always the polished stone of nobles or the gold-trimmed ones meant for pharaohs' tombs, but serviceable, sturdy ones, passed through generations like a favorite pair of sandals. They were sometimes made from sycamore wood, sometimes local limestone, and occasionally even repurposed from broken tools. In poorer homes, one might find headrests cobbled from scraps wrapped in linen, their edges worn smooth by years of sleep. Historians still argue whether the working class used these religiously or practically, if the spiritual associations applied equally, or if those were luxuries of the wealthy. But based on Hetep's stories, the truth seems simpler. "It's not about softness," he says. "It's about space." You tilt your head. When you lift your head, it's like telling the world, "I'm still here, still awake, even when I'm sleeping." He taps the top of the headrest gently. "Besides, have you ever tried to nap during festival season with drums outside your window? You want something that doesn't sink." You smile, imagining him curled on the floor, scribal robes in a pile, cat pressed against his ribs, neck propped on his sturdy chunk of wood while the city explodes with noise just outside. Later, that day, you visit another home, this time belonging to a seamstress. She lives farther out, near the edge of the city, where the wind blows harder and the buildings are more worn. She shows you her family's headrests, a set of 3, each slightly different. One is wide and low, likely for a child. Another has a woven pad tied around the top, perhaps an early form of comfort customization. The third is tall, with delicate etchings on its base. "That one was my father's," she says. "He said it helped with his snoring. I'm not sure if that was science or shame." You chuckle. She offers you bread and a story, how her brother used to sneak the headrest into the sun to warm it before naps. Said it made the dreams sweeter. You picture it, a child running outside with a stone block like it's a treasure, laying it in the sun and returning later to press his neck against its warmth. Even among the working class, these strange little devices hold meaning. They're not decorative, not trendy, just trusted. Every scratch, every chip tells a story of sleep, of struggle, of family. You begin to realize something deeper. The headrest isn't just an object, it's a witness. It sees lovers roll toward each other in the dark. It supports the necks of mothers resting between cries. It outlives generations. It survives floods, feasts, and the occasional falling roof tile. And still, it waits patiently for bedtime. You return home that evening, your mind buzzing with simple truths in old wood. You look at your own headrest, stone, elegant, slightly uneven on one side. You smile. Tonight, you lie down and rest your neck against it. Not as a tourist, not as an observer, but as one among millions who have done the same. Whether scribe, servant, or pharaoh, everyone sleeps. And many, it seems, slept like this. You shift a little. The headrest creaks. Your breath slows. Above you, the stars begin to prick through the dark like cautious whispers. And just before your eyes close, you think of Hetep's words. It's not about softness. It's about space. The morning brings a breeze that smells faintly of roasted barley and sun-warmed linen. It slips through the shutters and nudges you awake, like a cat pawing at your thoughts. You stretch slowly, neck rolling off the curve of the headrest with a quiet clack that reminds you, yep, still made of stone. But this time, there's no temple, no dream scroll, no incense curling in the air, just the simple sounds of the street and the muffled chatter of your neighbors. You rise, wrap your linen tunic loosely over your shoulder, and step into the alley, where something new waits for you. Today, you've been invited to visit the home of a local scribe. Not a royal, not a priest, just a working man. The kind who spends his days bent over scrolls, scratching out records of grain rations, marriage contracts, or someone's very dramatic chicken theft. His name is Hetep, and he greets you at the doorway with ink on his hands and a reed pen still tucked behind his ear. "You're here about headrests?" he says, squinting. "Mine's lopsided. I like it that way." You blink. "That doesn't hurt your neck?" He shrugs. "Depends which side of the bed the gods are on." He leads you inside. His home is modest. 2 rooms, a mat rolled up in the corner, and shelves stacked with scrolls bound in dyed thread. A cat lounges on a pile of rushes and eyes you with suspicion. He shows you his headrest, a small wooden one, cracked at one edge, but clearly well loved. Unlike the elaborate carvings you've seen elsewhere, this one is plain. No scarabs, no prayers. Just smooth wood, shaped to hold a tired neck after too many receipts. "You make your own?" you ask. He laughs. No, my brother carved it. I just kept it. Even when I got promoted, even when the cat knocked it over for the 3rd time." You sit together in the quiet, sipping watered beer, and Hetep starts talking. Turns out, even ordinary Egyptians had headrests, not always the polished stone of nobles or the gold-trimmed ones meant for pharaohs' tombs, but serviceable, sturdy ones, passed through generations like a favorite pair of sandals. They were sometimes made from sycamore wood, sometimes local limestone, and occasionally even repurposed from broken tools. In poorer homes, one might find headrests cobbled from scraps, wrapped in linen, their edges worn smooth by years of sleep. Historians still argue whether the working class used these religiously or practically, if the spiritual associations applied equally, or if those were luxuries of the wealthy. But based on Hetep's stories, the truth seems simpler. It's not about softness, he says. It's about space. You tilt your head. When you lift your head, it's like telling the world, "I'm still here, still awake, even when I'm sleeping." He taps the top of the headrest gently. "Besides, have you ever tried to nap during festival season with drums outside your window? You want something that doesn't sink." You smile, imagining him curled on the floor, scribal robes in a pile, cat pressed against his ribs, neck propped on his sturdy chunk of wood while the city explodes with noise just outside. Later that day, you visit another home. this time belonging to a seamstress. She lives farther out, near the edge of the city, where the wind blows harder and the buildings are more worn. She shows you her family's headrests, a set of 3, each slightly different. One is wide and low, likely for a child. Another has a woven pad tied around the top, perhaps an early form of comfort customization. The third is tall, with delicate etchings on its base. That one was my father's, she says. He said it helped with his snoring. I'm not sure if that was science or shame. You chuckle. She offers you bread and a story. How her brother used to sneak the headrest into the sun to warm it before naps. Said it made the dreams sweeter. You picture it, a child running outside with a stone block like it's a treasure, laying it in the sun and returning later to press his neck against its warmth. Even among the working class, these strange little devices hold meaning. They're not decorative, not trendy, just trusted. Every scratch, every chip tells a story of sleep, of struggle, of family. You begin to realize something deeper. The headrest isn't just an object, it's a witness. It sees lovers roll toward each other in the dark. It supports the necks of mothers resting between cries. It outlives generations. It survives floods, feasts, and the occasional falling roof tile. And still, it waits patiently for bedtime. You return home that evening, your mind buzzing with simple truths and old wood. You look at your own headrest, stone, elegant, slightly uneven on one side. You smile. Tonight, you lie down and rest your neck against it, not as a tourist, not as an observer, but as one among millions who have done the same. Whether scribe, servant, or pharaoh, everyone sleeps, and many, it seems, slept like this. You shift a little. The headrest creaks. Your breath slows. Above you, the stars begin to prick through the dark like cautious whispers. And just before your eyes close, you think of Ahetep's words. It's not about softness, it's about space. The air tonight is thick with heat. You lie motionless, a damp sheen across your brow, wondering how anything, animal, human, or deity, managed to sleep in this. There's no fan, no open refrigerator to sneak into, just the heavy hush of the Egyptian night and the distant chirp of desert crickets trying their best not to combust. And yet, you're strangely fine. The breeze from the window licks across your neck. Your head is cool, your back warm. You blink slowly in the dark, aware of how dry the air is, how still everything feels, and suddenly it clicks. This headrest, the stone one, the weird arc-shaped anti-pillow, wasn't just a spiritual bridge or an insect defense platform. It was an ancient air conditioning system. In its own simple, brilliant way, the curve of the headrest elevates your skull, allowing air to flow freely around it. Unlike a modern pillow, which cradles your head in a fluffy tomb of heat-trapping fabric, this thing practically begs the wind to swirl underneath and around. It's cooler, fresher, practical. You sit up slightly and notice something else. You're not sweating into a bundle of cotton. Your bedding is a simple, woven reed mat, maybe topped with a linen sheet. No padding, no insulation. The heat slips through rather than getting trapped. You walk slowly toward the door, headrest in hand. Outside, rooftops shimmer in moonlight. You pass a young man lying beneath the stars, head gently perched on a slab of polished wood. He waves lazily. You wave back. And then you realize, Egyptians often slept outside. When the heat became unbearable, and it often did, people would bring their mats, blankets, and yes, their headrests up to the flat rooftops or courtyards where the night air moved freely. There was no need for elaborate comfort, no mattress the size of a chariot, just space, stars, and the stone curve beneath the neck. You climb to your own roof and settle near the edge, your headrest clicking softly into place beneath your neck. The coolness is immediate. You lie back and stare upward. Above you, the stars burn in unfamiliar shapes, constellations half remembered from books, myths tied to gods with falcon heads and sun-disk crowns. The Milky Way, to Egyptians, was considered a heavenly river, sometimes imagined as the goddess Nut, stretched across the sky like a living arch. Tonight, She watches you sleep. Historians still argue whether rooftop sleeping was a necessity or a preference, whether it was common among all classes or mainly a habit of city dwellers with flat-roofed homes. But everyone agrees on one thing. The headrest made it possible. You glance toward the edge of the roof and see another sleeper shifting in the dark. A low murmur drifts up from a nearby courtyard, two voices, probably lovers, whispering before sleep. A donkey brays. A door creaks. But all of it feels muffled, as if the night has softened everything for you. The breeze finds your face again, brushing across your forehead, and you realize just how perfect the design is. The headrest doesn't hold heat. It doesn't cling to sweat. It doesn't hug you like modern pillows do. And that, oddly, is the gift. It allows. Sleep rather than forcing it, it gets out of the way. You press your neck back into the ark. The stone is cool again, not because it was refrigerated, but because it's been shaped to stay cool. That curve, it doesn't just cradle your head, it minimizes surface contact, limiting the amount of body heat transferred. You think about ancient engineers, architects of pyramids and water clocks, and now the subtle genius of a cooling pillow. There's a soft clink beside you, someone settling in. An older woman, a neighbor perhaps, wraps a shawl around her shoulders and places her head on a weathered, painted headrest. She doesn't say anything. She doesn't have to. You're both part of the same nightly ritual. Heads lifted, skies wide open, dreams waiting just above the rooftops. The moon rises, casting pale lines across your mat. You watch as the shadow of your headrest stretches long and thin like a hieroglyph in motion. You close your eyes and wonder if pharaohs slept like this, outdoors, under the stars, letting their souls drift upward on the backs of scarab wings. Or maybe they stayed inside palaces, too buried in ceremony to risk the simple perfection of a rooftop nap. You like to think some of them escaped, that at least once one of them lay quietly under the sky with only linen, quiet air, and a smooth arc of ivory under his neck. And maybe he too thought, this is better than fluff. There is no clash of swords, no storm, no cry of battle. The war begins without motion, without sound, without the violence the word war usually carries. It begins like a sigh withheld, like light learning, for the first time, how not to pass through itself. The war without motion unfolds across the sky, as if two reflections inside a mirror chose, at last, to disagree. You drift between them now, the ones who remain and the ones who've turned. Their wings still gleam, their voices still harmonize, and yet something in their stillness feels separate, not shattered, but strained. Michael stands unmoving, but he is no longer at rest. His form tenses like a gate that knows it will soon be closed, not to trap, but to protect. Across from him, Lucifer glows brighter than ever, not out of defiance, but because his radiance no longer bends. It does not reflect, it declares. There are others with him now, those who watched him shift and in doing so found the permission to turn inward themselves. A third of heaven's host, not rebels, not soldiers, not yet, just those who asked quietly, what if? And that was enough. The heavens have always thrived on harmony, not force. Obedience, not oppression. So when disharmony enters, it is not met with violence, but with silence. A deep and aching stillness stretches between the hosts. No accusations, no commands. Just a division that bleeds through the fabric of eternity without tearing it. You move gently through this invisible battlefield. You feel the way sound would travel here if it were allowed. The space between angels becomes heavy, not with hatred, but with weight, as if choice itself has become mass, and all must carry it. Some say this was the holiest war because it shed no blood, only light. Light drawn inward, light turned aside, light used to illuminate self. And still, no motion, only posture. Michael does not raise his hand, he lowers his head, not in defeat, in grief. He sees Lucifer's beauty unaltered, his eloquence untouched, but also his absence. Not absence of presence, but absence of connection. He is still here, but no longer with Gabriel stands between them, though he says nothing. A messenger with no scroll, a prophet with no word. He bears only the vibration of a message not yet delivered, the weight of a truth too soft to be spoken aloud. And above all of it, above the separation and sorrow and aching light, Azazel observes. He has not chosen, not publicly, not with his voice, but in his stillness there is sympathy, not for the turning, but for the longing that caused it. Some say that makes him dangerous. Others say that makes him the most honest of all. You float toward the hollow, still untouched by creation. It pulses now, faintly, as if responding to the shift in the heavens, as if it knows that what happens above will ripple downward, that what breaks among the angels will bleed into the dust. The war continues, not with shouts but with silence, not with weapons but with wondering. It is a still war, the kind that unravels reality slowly. And that is perhaps the most devastating kind of all, because stillness gives room for sorrow, and the angels, once indivisible in their joy, now carry the unbearable weight of seeing each other separate. You feel it in your own spirit now, a thread pulling gently, like a tear not yet shed. And Azazel, he doesn't move, but his heart has already taken a side. Perhaps not Lucifer's, but not Michael's either. Perhaps he has taken the side of what was lost, and in this quiet war that may be the most painful allegiance of all. You descend now through a quiet that has changed its shape. Once, it was the silence of peace, effortless and whole. Now, it is the hush that follows choice, a quiet made of aftermath. Not of battle, but of division. You drift through the space between falling suns. These are not stars as you know them. They are not physical. They are identities, radiant ones who once reflected the divine without interruption, now cast from their stations not by force, but by alignment. Each falling light carries with it a song, now muted, a name, now heavy. And among these drifting exiles walks one who does not fall, but travels between. Uriel, the fire of God, the flame that does not flicker. Some say he carries a scroll made of thunder, others that his sword is carved from the edges of time. But tonight, he walks softly, quiet, watching, bearing a name only the silence dares pronounce. He moves not between camps, but along the line that separates them, not to judge, not to stop, but to remember. You follow him now, feeling the sorrow woven into his steps. Each stride is like a clock tick without hands, a mark that something is passing, though no one wants to count it. Some say Uriel was tasked to carry light to those who fell, not to save them, but to witness their descent. Not with wrath, with tears. You see him descend through the folds of heaven's veil, passing through echoes of decisions already made. His wings do not open, his eyes do not blink. He simply walks as if the boundary between loyalty and exile must be walked before it can be understood. He passes near Lucifer, whose brilliance still blinds, even in fall. The morning star does not greet him. There is no defiance in their gaze, only recognition, like two old friends who chose different truths. Uriel nods once and continues. He steps into the space between rebellion and righteousness and leaves no footprint, because truth at this level is not a side, it is a sorrow. Far above, Michael watches. His sword remains sheathed. He knows this path Uriel walks. It is not his, but he honors it, and Gabriel, who now holds a scroll he dare not open, watches too, wondering what message will be born from this passage. You sense it now? Uriel carries something more than fire. He carries memory, the memory of heaven before the turn, the knowledge of light before it claimed itself. Some say this is why he was chosen to stand at Eden's gate long after, because only a watcher of sorrow can guard the place where innocence ends. Azazel feels his passing. The watcher of the north lowers his eyes, not in shame but in reverence, for Uriel walks where Azazel cannot, between. Azazel observes. Uriel walks, Lucifer burns, Michael waits, and you drift between them all, caught in a lullaby of division sung so softly it almost feels like peace. But it is not peace. It is a pause, the kind that comes after a page is turned, before the next line begins. You follow Uriel's path as it fades into quiet until even his glow is folded into the dark between stars not yet spoken. And though he has said nothing, one question follows behind him like a breath suspended in shadow. Who bears the sorrow of heaven? You drift downward now, gently, through a sky that no longer feels like heaven. The radiance has not vanished, but it has changed. It is quieter, dimmer, as if even light knows when to mourn. The war, though bloodless, has concluded, not with a victor, but with a wound. Those who turned have been separated. Their light remains, but it is untethered. They fall not like fire, but like memory. The space around you is thick with unspoken names. Some of them still glow faintly as they descend into the hollow that once shimmered with anticipation. That hollow, the cradle carved for creation, is now marked. Not marred, marked, as if it remembers what choice cost heaven. And within that space, deeper than wind and lower than flame, something begins to form. Chains, not forged in metal, not heated in fire, but shaped from the very will that made heaven whole. These are not shackles of punishment, they are boundaries. Limits woven into reality by the breath of holiness itself. Invisible cords spun from the fabric of order, made to restrain not bodies, but consequences. Some say the chains were prepared before the rebellion. That God, in his knowing, wove into the universe a response to divergence, not revenge, rhythm, a sacred containment. The book of Enoch tells of these things. It whispers of angels who were bound before time because their knowledge became hunger, of watchers who descended into the world to teach forbidden arts, not out of evil, but longing. You feel the gravity of those truths now, sinking gently into the well below the heavens. These chains wait not for vengeance, but for alignment, to hold what no longer fits within heaven's rhythm. And they are not cruel, they do not pull, they invite submission. Yet even that invitation is unbearable to those who turned. You feel it in the distance, a strain, like light refusing to be folded. Lucifer's presence burns differently now, brighter but colder. His fall is not complete. It never truly is, for the morning star does not fall the way mortals imagine. He descends across eternity in layers. Each choice deepens the chasm. Each refusal stretches the chain that waits to hold him. Azazel stands near the edge of the hollow, his gaze steady. He sees what few dare look upon, not the fallen, but the price of falling. Some believe he helped fashion the chains. Others say he feared them. Perhaps both are true. He was a watcher after all, and watchers always see more than they say. You drift alongside him now, feeling the silent tension in his stance. He does not reach toward the chains. He does not flee them. He simply witnesses. Perhaps that is what they were always meant for. Not just restraint, but recognition. A sign that heaven does not erase, but remembers. Michael hovers far above, one hand outstretched, not to strike, to guide, as if offering a return that no longer exists. Gabriel weeps quietly, scroll in hand. He reads nothing aloud, because the message is already written in the silence. And Uriel, the one who walked between falling suns, now stands watch at the gates of creation's edge, sword sheathed, head bowed. You feel the chains vibrate, not with malice, but with mercy. They are not punishment. They are protection for both realms, for what was lost and for what is still to come. And in their presence, a single question hums through all things. If even angels can fall, who among us can stand unbound? You rise again now, slowly, through folds of radiant sorrow. The sky above you still glows, but it no longer sings. The harmony that once wrapped all things in rest has quieted, like a harp with one missing string. Something holy has shifted, not broken, but altered. You find Michael alone at the border of what will become the world. He does not stand tall tonight. He kneels. A sword rests by his side, its blade buried not in earth, but in silence. His armor is untouched, his wings folded. And yet, you see the weight he carries, not in bruises, in stillness, the kind of stillness only grief can hold. Michael has not lost a battle. He has fulfilled a duty, but that fulfillment came at a cost. The brightest among his brethren no longer calls him brother. And though Michael was chosen to defend heaven, he never wished to defend it from one he once loved. Some say angels cannot feel sorrow, that they obey without burden. But tonight, that myth dissolves. You feel it in Michael's breath, slow, steady, as if each inhale remembers the moment Lucifer turned. He does not curse him, he does not cry out, but he weeps, not with tears, but with memory. A mourning for what was before. A mourning for who they once were, all of them. You drift closer and feel the echo of their last gaze, Michael and Lucifer, two flames born from the same utterance, one who stood, one who turned, but both aching. Behind Michael, the edge of Eden begins to glow, a place not yet formed, a garden still folded in divine thought. The world has not begun, and yet already sorrow prepares the soil, because creation, like light, must now grow through contrast. The scroll has not unrolled again, but you can sense its next chapter waiting, and Michael, gentle and resolute, prepares to guard it, not as a conqueror, as a witness, a sentinel of beauty that must now coexist with exile. Azazel watches from afar just beneath the veil. His gaze rests not on Eden, but on Michael. Some say he envies the warrior's clarity. Others say he pities it, for even righteousness must bleed when light divides. Gabriel appears beside you, whispering a verse too soft to hear. Perhaps it's a psalm, perhaps a prophecy. His hands tremble slightly, the scroll now growing warm in his grip. He has seen the names within it, names not of angels, but of clay, names that will echo with worship and with wandering. And Uriel, the silent one, stands beyond the threshold. He looks not at the heavens, nor at the hollow. He looks forward, toward a dawn that has not yet risen. Some say he has already seen the garden, that he knows who will walk its paths, that he knows even now where the first shadow will fall. You sense the sky trembling, not with rage, with reverence. A hush blankets the realm as if all of heaven is bowing, not to power but to pain, because the story has begun to cost something. And still, Michael kneels. His hand rests lightly on the hilt of his sword, not in readiness to strike, in remembrance. The memory of a song no longer sung, of a brother whose voice once filled heaven, and as his gaze lifts to the starlit hollow, the edge of his mouth trembles, not in doubt, in hope, quiet hope, that perhaps one day glory will be restored, that perhaps light, having once turned inward, will remember how to reflect again. You float upward gently, the weight of the moment following, like the echo of a bell long faded. And in that space between longing and loyalty, Michael weeps a tear you cannot see, but you feel. And so does heaven. You descend one final time, not through layers of glory, but through the spaces between. There is no trumpet now, no clash of will, only quiet, a sacred quiet. You reach the edge of all things, where light fades gently into breath, and breath becomes the memory of beginnings. Below you lies a sea not of water, not of stars, but of silence, the deepest kind, the kind that listens. It is the surface of the world not yet born, and over these waters something hovers, not an angel, not a song, a presence. You cannot see it, but you know it, like the warmth of fire before flame, like the hush before a name is spoken. The spirit moves here, not swiftly, but softly, preparing, hovering. The void below is no longer empty. It is expectant. Creation draws near. But before the first, let there be, before earth or wind or heartbeat, there is this, a long exhale, a sacred stillness. Heaven, though altered, watches. The thrones do not turn, the seraphim do not move, but they feel it, this birthing of something other, a realm not made of them, but for them to serve. You drift through the veil that separates what has been from what will be. And as you do, you pass through echoes, faint whispers of things to come. Eden, the tree, the river, a voice in the cool of day, a question asked to a soul wrapped in dust. But those are not tonight's stories. Tonight, you hover here, in this final fold of pre-creation, beside Azazel. He stands, as he always has, between light and what lies beyond. He gazes upon the waters not with dread, but with a longing that still has no name. Some say he has already fallen. Others believe he never truly did, that he simply stood too long at the edge of knowing. You feel his breath now, not cold, not warm, just real. The breath of one who has seen too much to sing, and yet not enough to turn. Far above, Michael rises, his sorrow tucked gently beneath his armor, his sword returned to its sheath. He will not speak again until paradise is breached. Gabriel walks away from the scroll. He no longer needs it. The words have already become time. Uriel watches from the gate. The path behind him darkens. The dawn before him brightens. The stars above do not shine brighter. They simply return to their place. And you float gently, held by the presence that hovers, the presence that waits. The first word is about to be spoken. But before that, there is this moment, this silence, the echo of heaven's ache, the weight of divine restraint, the grace of what was lost, and the mystery of the what will be found. Creation waits, and so do you. And now, the story quiets. The veil settles. The wings fold. The stars, once burning with sorrow and longing, dim softly, not extinguished, just resting. The light that once questioned, the watcher who once waited, the warriors who once wept, all now fade into memory. The hollow, once marked by division, is now blessed with hope. Even in loss, there is promise. Even in silence, the word prepares to speak. You drift through that promise now, wrapped in breathless stillness, like parchment held beneath a patient pen. The music of the early heavens, fractured but healing, echoes faintly behind you. A lullaby, not of victory, but of wisdom. Michael's tear still glistens in eternity's fold. Azazel still stands between thresholds. And you? You return slowly from the sacred place, carrying not answers, but wonder. The stars have dimmed, but something holy lingers. Something ancient, something soft, something that remembers the war and waits for the peace that comes after.